Hello, hello. Long time no see. Today we are back with a football convo that is incredibly meaningful to me. Quarterback patience, a hot topic amid training camp season, and the rare period where almost every team believes they will take a major step forward with a guy in place. Pivoting first to the draft, to me, when a quarterback is drafted, you as the team are committing to the development of a human being, sometimes going on to deem them as your savior. Um, so to expect a polished individual, knowing the norms for a place you could have just moved across the country to, is absolutely absurd. Just put it plain and simple. But if a QB does, then good on them. But a young talent is owed the time, and what they do with it is determined by the education you as the team choose to instill in them. Prepared that little chunk far in advance. But I think that summarizes it well. Um, you draft someone. Anthony Richardson is the perfect example after all. This is a Colts dedicated YouTube channel. You draft him off of the Josh Allen build. Someone who is raw, potential rich, and has a lot of talent. Um, you're drafting them on what they can be. Um, and in the draft process, as I've noted on here before, Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen were aware of that. Um, they were practically embracing that we knew we weren't maybe going to start off hot, but we're going to get there eventually. And we're not willing to watch any other team succeed with this guy other than us. So we take a chance, as do a lot of other teams do. Um, but I think in a similar way, we watched Caleb Williams struggle with the team he was on this past year. Awful play calling, the same play calling Justin Fields had to play through. And yet we expect Caleb day one to be this exceptional quarterback when, on the surface level, on offense, you give him a lot of support there, but he needs more. Offensive line, you need that. Defense needs to be better. So it leads me to believe, and which I almost inject this into every football related conversation because, as I noted at the top of this video, it's very important to me. Leads me to believe that a Peyton Manning who started off, and I believe he still has the record for the most interceptions thrown in one season. Or maybe Jameis is up there too, but you're not leaving enough room for quarterbacks to make these errors and then succeed off the back of them. This is the only way they learn. Um, Peyton Manning has gone on to note that numerous times. In fact, Peyton Manning recently said, "It bothers me that Bryce Young is already on his third play caller and he's only played 2 seasons." So that's going on the coaching conversation. Like just as I mentioned with Caleb, he's already on his second play caller with Ben Johnson, who I think is leaps and bounds better than Mike Eberflus. But it's all about giving a quarterback the room to grow into the person you drafted them, believing that they are or can be in the case of the Colts. But interestingly, someone whose opinion I tend to agree with uh, more of the time than not, Kevin O'Connell. I adore him. Had that great interaction with Anthony at the end of that Vikings Colts game off the back of just benching Anthony. He said, I believe that organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. Wish I couldn't agree more. Even in the same thought, for free agent quarterbacks who you bring in, the Carson Wentz situation that the Colts went through was incredibly personal to me, as Carson Wentz had practically gotten me to into the NFL. Certainly led me to the Colts, but you're bringing him in to push you toward a Super Bowl. I mean, toward the end of the 2021 season, into 2022, of course, there were certain people. I know Pat McAfee certainly thought we may have made a Super Bowl push after beating Arizona on Christmas night. Certainly looked that way, but you know, you get the impression at certain times during that season that Carson Wentz wasn't entirely comfortable yet. Um, Even though his stat line was fine, broadly speaking, while of course, putting the team on his back and feeling like he has to make a play every down isn't good, but had a better passer rating that year than Josh Allen. That's almost you know, that's incredible. But I was always, I said, uh, attending the Indianapolis Jacksonville game, not the one at the end of the season, but the one about midway, said to someone, I was like, give this guy another year and then really see what he can do. And of course, could have more than likely been just mediocre, but still, you need to give quarterbacks more time to get comfortable. I mean, you know, in New York, the Mets just paid Juan Soto huge contract. Of course, it's a longer season. Quarterbacking and football just in itself is more got to be great. But you're giving such a broad time span for someone to get comfortable. I would at least like us to return to the times of when Peyton Manning was just getting started out, or even maybe Andrew Luck, certainly Tom Brady, of just giving quarterbacks a little bit more belief, confidence. Because now, even though he may deny it, Anthony Richardson certainly could be going through those struggles, and we just not know about it. Of course, we're banking on him, but it's all dependent on whether or not a crappy year can be followed by just even a little bit good season for Anthony or Daniel. Who the hell knows? But this can be traced back to college. Tom Brady, at a conference of some sort, noted that he thinks it's a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early, but the reality is, the one reason why we are is because we've dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play. So, in Anthony's case, he's such a raw talent. Arguably, he definitely should have been on the bench that first year. And watching Gardner play, he played fine. So giving him the whole year to just really learn how to prepare, which is a huge issue, and narrative that got spread through the tapping out and all that stuff, who let voices like Pat McAfee run wild. Give him time to learn how to be a pro. Gardner Minshew is a student of Shane Steichen's system. He had played with him in Philly. Um, that to me, and I know Chris and Shane are definitely regretful. But in the great words of Vince Lombardi, football is like life. It requires perseverance, self denial, hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and respect for authority. That's a great quote. Um, and it is. To not experience adversity as a football team and as a football player is is something that I think is almost encouraged. I mean, remember Steve Sarkisian last year for Texas when we started off hot. He said, I think on Pat McAfee, ahead of the Georgia game, I've been trying to create ways to give these guys adversity so we can just know how to, kind of work through it. Of course, that game would be the biggest batch of adversity I think you could ever witness. But Nick Saban says you can't win together if you don't work together. So experiencing that adversity, it's almost entirely dependent on how your team works together to perhaps push you to be better. I think with Anthony, a lot of what we do know is strong words of encouragement on behalf of the Colts locker room leaders. And you know what? I'm glad we weren't in the locker room to hear all that because we don't need to be a part of that. I think the media has almost become privileged in that they think they are owed to hear and be a part of every conversation, but we shouldn't. Um, that is for the quarterback and the coaches to work through, and it creates toxic environments for fans and media to think they control what's best for the team. That's just, yeah. Joe Montana says, winners, I am convinced, imagine their dreams first. They want it with all their heart and expect it to come true. There is, I believe, no other way to live. So you got to want it. Of course, Anthony Richardson, the dedication was questioned. I think he wants it more now than ever. To the effect of that Joe Montana quote, quarterbacks will come into the league with this extremely high amount of confidence, knowing they can prove people wrong or prove people right or whatever. But I think it's once again on the team and the organization to keep that dream alive. If you're not giving them the time of day and also expecting them to be this Hall of Famer on day one, making, like a Jaden Daniels. He's 24. Now only a year older than Anthony, but last year he started so many games during his time in college. So did Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, all these quarterbacks. And especially if you really, really want to cherry pick Anthony as the example, compared to almost any other quarterback in the NFL, his experience in college was so limited that it's just almost an unfair comparison in itself. Um, a lot of people believe, and I think I'm now in the belief he should have stayed another year to get a full, healthy year of starting under his belt to make him better in the NFL. I think it would have. Um, of course, injuries is a whole nother thing, as we know, but what should be the word of the day, patience. You got to have calm, collected patience. And now, great example, for the wrong reasons, the Colts are now in a make or break season for Anthony and coaches and staff, all because they did not make it entirely clear what expectations should be on a frequent basis. The poor communication resulted, I think, in a lot of the narratives that were created. And I also think the hesitation for some odd reason to not dumb the game down, but to give Anthony easy progressions and reads and to not throw down the field so often that it shoots down his quarterback completion percentage, which people love to talk about, especially to me. Um, you want to win. Let's do that. Let's give him team at its best. The plays at their best, the coaches at their best, this explosive offense can be explosive yet efficient. Um, and so to expect quarterbacks broadly to be able to make these a level of read that just isn't there for them yet is another ridiculous factor of how the league is trending. This will probably only get worse as we move throughout these next years in the NFL as the game evolves. Um, you need to be a Super Bowl winner day one. Um, any interception, any fumble, any lackluster game results in the opportunity for low life, gonna be pretty harsh here, players of the game who didn't play your position, teenagers desperate for attention to give these opinions that in actuality do not reflect the legitimate situation. Also, could be called stat line box score observers. And somehow, in the current space that we're in on YouTube, Instagram, just all social media, and ESPN on cable television or whatever, somehow these legends who give quotes as great as the ones that I read have become the people that no one listens to. They just listen to the loud voice telling them this person needs to be better right now. But in actuality, they'll progress in due time. There needs to be more direction. There needs to be more um, establishment of goals and preparation. There's a reason that coaches like Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, and such are thought to be Hall of Fame coaches. I mean, certainly if Andy Reid were to coach like a Matt Eberflus, who seems to not have a voice, where do you think Patrick Mahomes would be? All these bizarre headlines create the opportunity for bizarre conversations to be had about teams that should have took Patrick Mahomes in the draft, when in actuality, the situation that, you know, Patrick Mahomes went into would have determined a large portion of his career. Certainly for Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold to a certain extent, or even maybe a Daniel Jones, or a lot of these quarterbacks who are succeeding on their third or fourth team. Um, it is all about the situation you land in and with the coaches whom you are with. Um, Development is such a fragile thing in itself. Yet earlier on, we got better product than we do now, I believe. Um, you'll never meet a quarterback who prepares like Andrew Luck or a Peyton Manning, because that's not what the game is anymore. So unless a large portion of viewers of the NFL and people who commentate on it and so on and so forth kind of have this realization, and we go back to providing the best context instead of providing the most clips or um, opportunities for reels or whatever have you, then and only then will we return to a greater form of the game and that is when every quarterback can be at their best with the best surrounding them. So hopefully, I've been able to convey my thoughts in a good way today. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I would love to hear from you, but it's good to get this off my chest. In the head of training camp with Anthony, sure to struggle, make strides. Just gotta hope for the best and keep calm, keep the patience, and I love more voices like mine talking about this development to shine. So, yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you sometime. Peace.